Hey guys, Martin from Personal Computers, and today we're going to talk about the 10 most common problems when building a custom computer. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Alright guys, so the way we're going to make this video is by counting down and assigning them to tiers. That means low, mid to high severities. Alright guys, so starting from number 10, we've had a lot of people coming into our office for us to fix their machines, and most of the time when people put it together and they don't know how to do it and they maybe do a YouTube video, a lot of people don't read about this, but the fans have a rotation and it shows you where it's going to push air or where it's going to suck air. Now, a lot of fans will have a mark. I don't know if you can see it from here, but right here, this Cooler Master fan tells you the rotation of where it's going to push air. Now, a lot of people may put the fans in the front panel of the case, and some of them are actually blocked out. It's just a plain panel. It doesn't have any airflow where you can push air out or come from the outside to the case. So if you're pushing the, if you attach the fan to this front panel and it's actually pushing air towards that front case and it's completely blocked out, there's no way that air is it's not gonna go anywhere. So it's good to know where the fan's going. Now, if you look at this fan, usually the fans will go from where they have the sticker, they're gonna push that way. And if you read about the fans online, you will find out where it's actually push or suck air. So you guys gotta make sure where you have this located. Number 9 is gonna be proper cable management. As you can tell, this machine is very, very clean inside, doesn't have a lot. Now, this is one of our custom builds. We have assembled this. We've seen a lot of people wiring the actual machines on the outside. For example, we've seen cases where people will run that CPU cable that goes onto the motherboard from here going all the way outside. We've even seen cases coming on top, like over the actual video card, and then it clicks right here on top of it. Now, cases are designed to have proper cable management from the back. So try to minimize as much as you can cables coming to the outside. There are a few scenarios where you may not be able to fit in, like the audio cable coming from the front panel in the back and running it through this little hole that they give you. Some cases don't have that, so you may have to run it through here, but usually is to have the best airflow as possible, because heat will condense right in the middle of the case. Especially if you have like a high-end video card, maybe you have liquid cooler mounted on top or in the front that air's coming through. You know, you want to make sure that the heat doesn't condensate in the middle, especially if you have cables all over the place like an spaghetti. So I want to show you real quick now the back of this machine. Now, this is the back of the machine, and as you can see, we've cleaned it as much as we can. A lot of times if you use a power supply, it may be bigger than what the actual case offers. There are some cases that are like the full-size tower cases, ATX, they're bigger and they have way much room inside where you can fit in the cables. But what we do is usually run the cables in one place all the way down like this by using cable ties. This is a huge help, and you want to make sure everything's set up in the back as well. Alright guys, so number 8 on the list is the memory slots. A lot of people don't read the manuals, and they may even Google how to put RAM 6 on your motherboard, but the thing that you want to know is, where do they go? All motherboards come with a slot number, and it'll tell you which way they're configured. So if you're gonna use dual ranks or 4 ranks, whatever the case is, this is just a quick example of an old motherboard we have here. Now, as you can tell on the side, it says DIMM 3, 1, 4, and 2. And the way that this works is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, we've seen people put in like 3 and then 2, and old motherboards like this one may not even work. It may give you an error, and you're gonna have to find out the proper way to do this. So modern motherboards, usually they'll just go ahead and jump into it onto your operating system, and it will detect the RAM slots, but still it's not the proper way to do it. Remember guys, read your manual, make sure you have the right slot of your RAM, this is DDR3, onto your motherboard. Now number 7 on the list is going to be overclocking. We had a lot of comments on Facebook and people messaging us on private talking about overclocking, how do I overclock and all this stuff. Now, if you're going to do overclock, first of all, you got to make sure what you want to achieve. A lot of people may use it for performance when they're rendering 3D videos or maybe AutoCAD stuff. Not everybody will use it for gaming. Now, for those gamers out there, if you have a high-end machine, you know, we're talking Ryzen 7 or 9 maybe, or Intel Core i7 or maybe a 9i, it's good to leave them default unless you're going to do special things and you may want to get the extra power out of it. Now, one of my friends had an overclocking on an i5 9600K and he boosted it up to 4.2, I believe it is. Now, he had some issues with it and he had to default it back to its clock speed. Now, when you overclock, you put all the cores working stable at the same gigahertz. So whatever happens, you're gonna get full performance out of it. If you're gonna get overclocking, make sure you guys know what you're doing. Do your research, Google, you know, search for YouTube videos and people who actually know how to do these things. If you do it wrong, when you're doing it manually, adjusting the voltage and the speed and all the stuff, you may end up damaging your motherboard. Now, if you're gonna overclock, just before I let you go, make sure you get a motherboard that can actually run overclocking. If you get a cheap motherboard, you may not be able to achieve a lot of the speed out of the overclock as it's not designed to do that. Now jump into number 6. We're gonna have purchasing the wrong parts. A lot of people just Google the stuff and, you know, like I mentioned earlier, they don't read a lot of it. Now, this is an X570 and this is an Intel Core i9. We've seen cases where people say, oh, I like that ASRock X570, it looks very nice, yada yada yada, and I want this Intel Core i9. Now, this is an AMD design motherboard, and this is an Intel Core processor. They're both completely different animals. So when you do your research online, if you go to our website, you can actually do an assembly for your computer, and as you select the components, it'll give you what are the compatible items for it, as well as PC part picker out there. If you do PC part picker, what it will do is, you know, as you select each item, it'll give you compatible items on what you're getting into. So if you select an AMD, an X570, and you don't know it is made for AMD, it'll actually pop up with AMD compatible processors. Same for the Intel Core. If you select your Intel Cores, it'll come up with Z490s right now for the 10th generation, or Z390 if you get the 9th generations. Alright guys, moving to number 5, we're going to be talking about used parts. As you can tell, I'm going to be showing you the same motherboard that I had just now and a hard drive. As you can tell, this motherboard is pretty old, and I've had phone calls, people calling me, oh, I have a friend who recommended an i5 2500K. If you get a used processor, you don't know what's the story behind it. You don't know what's motherboard, what's been given into, you know, if it's ever been overclocked or anything like it. You don't know if it's even working, and they won't give you a warranty. So you guys gotta make sure you be careful on what you get. You may be thinking about saving money, but you may actually spend more money in the future, as you won't be able to return the item and actually purchase new stuff along the way. This is an old hard drive. Make sure you guys get a new hard drive. You don't know how many years they have given into, and you don't know the story behind it, as well as pumps. Pumps come with 3 to 5 year warranty. You don't know if it's ever been overclocked or used for more than what it's actually made. So guys, make sure you get new parts. If you're trying to save money, you can probably build something for a cheaper price using a lower end component. Now we're gonna go for number 4. The list of number 4 is gonna be cheap power supplies. I'm gonna show you guys, one of our customers brought in a power supply and we had to replace it, and they used this cheap Chinese power supply. I don't know what the brand is, and we always recommend that you get a good power supply. Even though they're cheap, you can probably get away with the EVGA 500 watt, which are pretty inexpensive, and you don't have to go through the story of buying a cheap power supply, maybe used power supply that will fail. We've even seen this stuff explode. So if you guys are building a computer and you get a cheap power supply with high-end components, it can literally take everything out that's connected to it. So you guys make sure you be careful with your power supplies and get something that is certified, especially if you had a high-end computer. Alright guys, moving to number 3, it's going to be positioning your liquid coolers and how some people mess with it. when you're assembling a liquid cooler, you gotta make sure you're gentle with this. This is a kind of plastic in this model, Corsair model, and it can break if you're too hard when you're bending it to get the position that you want once you mount it. Before we jump onto the other one, I want to say, do your research and look up how this has to be positioned. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there that will show you why it's bad putting it, for example, the hose is on top of this, and one of the reasons is it doesn't work its full potential, and it'll short the lifespan out of the actual liquid cooler. So if you're assembling your machine and you don't know much about this, when you get an all-in-one machine, an all-in-one liquid cooler, sorry, make sure you get the positioning properly and don't mess too much with it. This is plug and play. You don't have to do anything about it. You don't have to dismantle this thing and refill it with cooler. It doesn't exist for this specific model. Alright guys, moving to number 2 is going to be the motherboard fitting. A lot of people will have a case. This is a Lian Li case, and as you can tell, it's got the mounted screws on the actual panel for the motherboard. It's got all of them in there, whether you're using a full-size, mid-size, or a small ITX motherboard. Now, some cases will not come with all of them tied up as this one is. And I had a case one time, this customer brought in his custom machine, and he didn't have all of the standard screws, but what he did, he took off the remaining ones and he assembled the actual motherboard on top of this panel. And if you do that, you're gonna cause it to short out. If there are components like this screw from the back that is coming out of it, it will touch it, it can break it. So you guys make sure you have the stand-up screws. This comes with the box, and if you're missing, the box actually brings the stand-up screws to do the complete size of your motherboard and use its true potential for the screws. If you use the wrong screws as you stand up this case, the motherboard can actually fall off. If you're assembling a machine that is high-end, make sure you guys are careful and do your research. You gotta make sure that everything is actually connected on it before you even turn it on. Make sure that everything's tight enough. Alrighty guys, jump into number 1 is gonna be thermal paste. As you can see, I'm showing you how pretty much we do this in-house. Now, you're gonna have 2 options. You can do liquid metal, which we use thermal grizzly for that. If you use this stuff, be really careful on how you do this. A small, tiny drop will actually split all over, and if it goes below the actual and it gets into the socket, you can actually damage it. So you gotta be really careful when you use that stuff. This is regular thermal paste from Thermal Grizzly, and this is what we recommend. This is what we've been using for many years, and it runs perfect. If it comes preloaded, just take it off, and we recommend putting a dot like this. Don't get too crazy about it. Some people actually like doing the X's. You can also do that, and it also works out. So that's pretty much it. Alrighty guys, this is pretty much it for the video. If you liked it, you can click the like button. If you have any suggestions, you can leave your comments down below. Again, Marlo from Motherboard Computers, thank you for watching.